Hello, it's Peter Wright and Kathleen Beauvais in Ontario, Canada, with episode number 96 of the Yakking Show. This is the show where we awaken you to new perspectives and we talk about life, business, and more. And we bring you tips and ideas to survive and thrive in the world, the changing world that we're living in right at the moment. Quick request, if you like our channel, please subscribe to the medium on which you're watching it or listening to, YouTube or Podbean or one of the others. More subscribers means more exposure for our guests, and you may well be one of our guests one day, and that means more exposure for you too. So it's my duty now to introduce my co-host down in Waterloo, Kathleen. How are you, Kathleen?
I'm great, Peter. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Well, thank you all so very much for tuning into our show. We so appreciate you and we love reading your comments. So please keep them coming. Anyone out there who's interested in being a guest on our show, please don't hesitate to reach out to Peter or myself. And today we have another special guest with us today. Her name is Karen Egoff. Welcome, Karen. How are you?
Fine. Thank you, Kathleen. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks. So Karen, you are the founder of My Soul Balance, which is a holistic practice that uses modalities that complement the body's natural rhythms. So why don't we start off with you telling our audience a little bit about your background and what led you into this interest in alternative healing modalities?
Wonderful. Well, my background is 30 years of teaching yoga. I started as a fitness instructor and realized that wasn't going to be my niche. After a year of doing that, I said, I'm going to wash my hands and move over to my yoga, which I was also trained to do, and decided it was time for me to take that on. So the yoga practice just kept growing. I taught meditations, I did retreats, and before I knew it, I decided I better get some wellness healing arts under my belt. In 2004, I started that journey and became a teacher in 2000. And from there, the wellness journey has just flowed. As a child, I see things, and people, no one else saw what I saw. So I just figured some people just don't see angels, and that's okay. So I had to give up on my family seeing what I saw, and realized years later, I was able to re-embrace my spirituality.
Wow. So, Kathleen, sorry, I was about to jump in, but it's Kathleen, you had something you wanted to ask Karen.
No, go ahead, Peter.
What services do you provide then, Karen? Tell our audience.
Yes, I provide Reiki, Cranial-Sacral, Bowen, and soul retrieval work, and yoga and meditation.
Okay, well now we have to delve into what these modalities are. So can you maybe explain what Reiki is, and then cranial-sacral, and the other modalities that you mentioned?
Sure. We'll start with the Reiki. Reiki is a hands-on healing energy that can also be hands-off. So I can work with someone while you're online here, and I can be in my office and you can be in your home, and I can send the energy. It's universal life force, or chi, energy. You can see it in every nationality. It's energy is mentioned. So working through the energy fields, we're able to bring in wellness for people. It's just absolutely fantastic. I've had a guy in Thailand cry like a little baby in his 30s and says, I don't usually cry, but your healing just cleansed me so much. And I told him what I felt, and he said, that's exactly where I felt it. So everything can be reached as long as your intention is there and you've been trained to work with energy. For cranial-sacral, it's one of my favorite things. A lot of osteopath doctors also do cranial-sacral, so it's really connecting the heartbeat of the spinal flow. And most people don't realize, but you have a heartbeat in your cranial-sacral fluid. It's a flow that flows up and down. And with that, osteopath, when that first started by Dr. Steele many years ago, he said there's a heartbeat, and it's not the cardiovascular. So it's like, it was exciting for him, and that's been explored beyond. Everybody has a way with. Anyway, so cranial-sacral has come to the point where if you have good life force, that means your cranial-sacral is flowing well. If your life force feels down, check in on a cranial-sacral therapist. that will definitely make a difference in anybody's day, is to reconnect that flow. And when you're flowing properly, then the rest of your body will get more nourishment.
So can you explain what you do during a cranial sacral session then?
So I'm holding and listening for the pulse and listening for that heartbeat of your whole system, which my fingers have been trained. I can feel it from your head down to your toes. And when I feel that vibration, it's like radical or too slow. I say, okay, let's move this. Let's get this flowing. And all of a sudden the body says, oh, I didn't know someone could read me. Sure. And thank you. And the body is like so happy. It's just such a happy feeling to really reconnect someone.
Hmm. Yeah. And you had other modalities? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, and Bowen was the next main one, which mainly is for my husband. He's taken Bowen to the level of teacher, and then he decided not to go for teachers. But he reconnects you by little movements on the back, and he's rolling over tendons and little muscles and reconnecting things. And it's Dr. Bowen from Australia. Anybody can look it up. So Bowen is a physical back treatment on the back of the body mainly, but he can also do TMJ and the shoulders at the front. It's just absolutely fantastic.
I've experienced Bowen, and it's actually when you have the treatment done, you think that what is that doing? Because it's very gentle. It's like a flicking of different places in your body, and you think, oh, that can't be doing anything, but it is actually, and I can attest to this, very, very powerful. So what is actually happening during the Bowen then?
I call it like Drano. It's draining out the stress, right? By a certain movement and a certain action, he's able, and it's really a gentle movement. To tell you the truth, I find male practitioners of all, like as I took level 2, and all the people that took it, there was 20 of us in the beginning, and the male were all better than any female that I've ever had Bowen from any, and I've had other Bowen instructors and teachers, but no, this class was mainly female. And I said, I really want to work with the guys because they seem to have a firmer feel for it. Right? And all the men, I would go see any of those guys, and right away, all 3 of them were very busy because they're quite good. So that movement is telling the muscle or tendon, let go. Oh, okay. And it's like flush. It almost, when you stood up, feels like it just flushed out.
So that's where you're basically holding your stress.
Right. And all these tendons and muscles, just got to remember, let's go back to where we used to be, not falling down or all squished up over here. Let's undo that and let's flow again. And that knot just unwinds.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I got a question for you, Karen.
Yes.
On the cranial-sacral, you say there's a heartbeat in the spinal fluid. Now, is that in sync with your regular heartbeat?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Oh.
No, it's considered a whole different thing. There's a cardiovascular. That's what, when Dr. Still, you can look him up. Not many people talk about Dr. Still, but he was really one of the major founders, and it gets missed by some people. So when he said there's a vibration, and it's like a heartbeat, but it's not, because the cardiovascular is over here doing something else. This is doing something over here. So we've got 2 beats going on, and the body, and when you think about when a baby for a woman is carrying, they've got more than just the heartbeat rolling.
Right.
The baby's going to feel that. So this flow is so forceful. It's like up the dura tube, which is like a big straw in the center of the spine. So it's a shh, right? It's got to keep flowing. And people that have cranial-sacral issues and don't have the flow, they've got to go in sometimes. Some people leak this fluid. It's not staying where it's supposed to in the cranium, and they have to put it back in. So I tell people, keep your cranial-sacral fluid flowing. If you don't know what that is, see a cranial-sacral or an osteopath that does cranial-sacral, because not all of them do. And it just became such a major for me that I thought, why would I switch this up? I had things changed on me that I didn't think possible through cranial-sacral. And I said, well, if I can get that done, I can help people with this too. And it's just changed my life.
So what kinds of conditions then would people come to you for cranial-sacral? work?
A lot of people have headaches and they just don't go away. I've had women that have had a baby a year and a half prior and still were just dealing with pain in their spine. One lady laid there for 20 minutes and I worked with her, and I finally got, because I like to work around the area before I get to it and let things come into that center more calmly. And then when I finally got to the back area, I was like, oh, that's easy. Let go. And it just did. I just talked to the body, and the body just my hands they just feel the pulse, and the pulse just let go.
So when you're doing this, Karen, are you actually doing a technique, or is this?
Yes, it is a technique.
Okay.
And the class that I took, there was probably about 18 of us in that too. And I found some women, they just couldn't feel the vibration. Like, it's like really, it's not thinking, it's feeling from that intuitive eye, not your physical. And if you can get to that point, it's a class that we were, I don't know, 25-hour class, something like that. It was all weekend. And yeah, it was huge. So you had to turn off your brain and just become with the person.
So you have, you offer retreats.
Yes.
Are these weekend retreats, and what can clients expect at these retreats?
Well, there's lots of variety of retreats. This year, I'm thinking of day retreats in the park just to get community together. So simple things, maybe some family stuff, and then maybe something for the moms, just to get people out. Normally, last year we did Jamaica. Yes, I got one retreat in last year in January. We ended up in Jamaica. That's when it's a music retreat, but it's also yoga. So the people that yoga or Reiki, they booked me in, and I had 12 people booked for yoga daily. So that was nice.
So when you went to Jamaica, you actually brought a group.
There's 50 of us that go, and about 10 to 12 of them take my class, and then the rest are there for the music and the sun.
The music and the food.
We bring our own band to that one.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Karen, I've got one. You've explained the different modalities, but how does your typical patient or client approach you? Do they come and say, I need Reiki, or do they come and say, this is what's wrong with me, can you help me?
Most people just feel like they're a little off, with all this social distancing and not seeing your friends and family. It's had a lot of people very lonely. So I find we all need that emotional lift. So anybody that's experienced any stress during this time, you're storing this either in your joints or in confusion in your cranium. And if you get confusion here, that's going to stop a whole bunch of stuff. And maybe your cranial-sacral flow is going to go downhill too with stress. So I like to work on everything to bring people back. But basically, anybody that's felt stress will find a release with Reiki. And do people come to me with stress? That's the main reason right now. Or they've stored it in the back as well, and they're starting to walk and it's really sore. Things like that, right?
So we noticed on your website that you sell products as well. They're orgone products. Can you explain what that is?
Oh, for certain. So orgone products, and I have one here. There's different ones. This one's a chakra one, but inside, let's see if I can put it. Yeah. So you'll see there's metal bits and crystal. You can kind of see through there's metal bits and crystal. Yeah. So the combination is called physioelectric or piezoelectric energy when you press together metals and crystals. And together it creates an energy that helps protect you from Wi-Fi. So it's like a Wi-Fi vacuum for me right in this room.
Because crystal and metal is the first radio sets. It was when I remember my parents telling me you had a little bit of wire called the cat's whisker, which you scratched over a crystal and you could pick up a radio signal with it, right?
See?
Yeah.
Exactly. There's so many simple ways to have energy, and I'm hoping we can come back to those simpler ways in the near future. So so together, those crystals and metals together are creating a harmony around you.
Right.
And so you have your own field away from the Wi-Fi, and it'll push it away.
Are they specific crystals and metals, like very?
There's certain ones that are better than others. I have a few people that make them for me because I just don't have time. It's a stinky process because the resin, and I had to do it in the outdoors, and
Right.
yeah, people that do it for me, I'm like, thank you. So my newest one is for the phones. I don't have one on yet. I just gotta go get it. I have I'm going to put one back on my phone. I just got a new one. Is a shungite. So shungite is a crystal, very strong, and can be used or orgone. Either one is very popular. So I have a small black shungite that has a sticky tape and everything. I've just purchased a bunch, and I'm going to have both available because I sold out. It was crazy busy with those.
Wow.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to switch a bit. Something else we picked up on your website was meditation.
Yeah.
So perhaps you can tell our listeners the main benefits of meditation and what techniques do you advise? Because a lot of people, myself included, struggle with meditation, right?
Yes. Well, meditation I just want to get back to retreats. We do weekend retreats in Ontario quite often. I love the way ones, but we do them here. And during those we have meditations daily, and people are like, oh, please give me a meditation. It's surprising how much people are really looking to get downloaded and just get relaxed. So I find it's great if you can meditate under the trees in a nice easy boy chair kind of thing, or put your feet up, because when your feet are on the ground, it's nice to be grounded, but also it's just nice to be floating too. So I like people to be laying down if they're comfortable. And then meditation, once we get to that point, we do it online now and in person because we're now back in that zone. But it's really just taking people down that path of calmness and finding the right voice that people want to hear. And when you can come to the tone in the place that you're comfortable and the person hears you well, then the rest flows. I get guidance to what to say. I usually have a written up sheet, but before I know it, I'm off on another path myself, and I'm teaching what I'm supposed to teach that group. So I go into a place that is spiritual, it's soulful, and everybody benefits.
Do you combine that with different breathing techniques?
Yes. And working with your breath, of course, Kathleen is very good with wellness. With breathing, it's always good to slow it down, right? No matter where you're at, slowing it down. I mean, many of us are back on a new pace, and we got phone calls and kids and supper to cook. So it's like, put in a schedule of time to breathe, or take my class and meditate and breathe. So for just a quick little easy one is you just want to inhale deeply and fully, and you want to feel your stomach actually expand. You want to open up through the diaphragm, upper lungs, everything's filled. And as you exhale, you want to deflate from top down. And inhale, you want to inflate from bottom up. It's an easy way to think of it, right? And as you take those soulful 3-second breath in and soulful 3-second out, before you know it, you're like, oh, I'm already feeling a little calmer.
Excellent. Thank you for that.
Yes, and I know that I started meditating about 5 or 6 years ago, and I only do 5 minutes every morning. Most mornings I get it right. Some days my head is just too full and I can't get it right. But on the days that I do, I've tested this, and I know I can drop my blood pressure by quite a fair measurable amount from before and after.
Lovely. Oh, I'm going to write that as a testimonial. I love hearing that. Just by doing how many minutes do you find?
I just do 5 every morning, and I have a little mantra, and I concentrate, as you just said, on my breathing. Just breathe in, breathe out, and clear my mind of everything else. And most days it works. Some days I get through the 5 minutes, but I know that my mind has been too active. But that's the exception.
Beautiful. So I should say, it's a nicer way of saying your blood pressure levels out.
Yeah.
As opposed to, because some people don't want to drop if they're already low. So yes.
No, sure.
Yeah, it'll bring you to a nice peaceful state. And really, if you're outside as well, and you can bring in your eyes to see colors of nature, you even can take that to a new level, because we have things in our eyes called cones and rods.
Cones and rods, yeah.
And if they're not seeing the sky every day, things just don't work as well.
Right.
So take yourself outside, do the breathing, and then you're also giving the eyes a nice little treat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most definitely. Good. So while I've got your attention, another one for you. Do you treat animals, Karen?
Yes, we do. We've had some extremely good results with animals. Would you like to hear one?
Absolutely.
Yes, please.
We had a lady who's just a dear friend of ours, and her cat wasn't walking. It was dragging its leg and hip. So finally, after a week of that, she said, I don't even know what happened. Went to the vet. Oh, it needs a hip thing and an operation, and this joint's got to come out. And she's like, how much is that? Of course, you know, pretty expensive. So she came to us and on the phone, and she said, can you do anything with my kitty? And she showed me the picture, and I'm like, yeah, this cat's ready to heal. Let's do it. So I read eyes as well.
Mm-hmm.
So the cat and I had a conversation, and I am also an animal communicator as well. And so we were working on him, and 20 minutes on like a Skype call, I think it was, I saw him, like all of a sudden he started to look around, like what happened? And he was like kind of smiling. Oh, then he stood up, and she's like, oh, he's doing something very unusual here. And then all of a sudden he jumped off the couch. Well, he hasn't jumped in 6 months.
Yeah.
Right? Or months.
Mm-hmm.
So finally she's like, okay, he's been dragging his butt around here and not able to move. And he's now walking across the floor. Oh my God. And that happened like a half an hour tops. We just finished the Reiki, and he was sitting on the floor going, cleaning himself and, you know, all happy. And she started to walk away, and she's crying. We're all crying because he needed an expensive hip operation.
That's right. That's right.
Gosh. And the cat is fine today.
Still, this is like a year later, at least.
Oh, that is amazing. Oh,
so, because animals are so spiritual, right?
Oh, they are.
Yes.
Well, they also are, you know, they tend to be more receptive, I think, sometimes than humans to different energies, aren't they? Would you agree with that?
Yes,
and you can't fool them either. You know, a person can want to say, yes, I feel better because I want to please you. Or if they don't want to please you, no, it's not doing me any good at all. But animal's totally neutral. It either works or it doesn't work with the animal.
Exactly. But she had been lifting him up the couch just to have the treatment. And like I said, she'd been kind of worried about what she should do next. And finally she said, I think I'm just going to see if Karen would try this one. Mm-hmm. And she waited a long time, but that poor cat, he was just like so happy that someone was going to do this instead of the operation. And his energy just like was telling me, yes, let's do this. And they sent a signal, and the signal was green light, go, basically. And
Well, quick, the reason I asked you that question is you can hear from my accent that I haven't lived in Canada all my life. I lived most of my life in Africa, and I had a lot of horses and played a lot of equine sports, polo and another game called polo cross. So the horses, it was strenuous, and their backs would go out a little bit, and they would require treatment. And we had a good friend who was a Reiki practitioner, and she would come along and put her hands on that horse's back, and you could see the horse visibly relax and sigh and just relax. And we saw it on many horses. We saw it. Yeah.
Nice.
So I know it works. Yeah.
So this is many years ago you saw this.
Oh, in the 90s. I've been here since 2003. It would have been in the late 90s when we were playing those sports, yeah. And we had horse chiropractors who would come and manipulate their backs as well. And that I could also see the horses relax with that too. So, yeah, it works.
It is true. Horses love all the treatments. I've had people show me what they had a Bowen on a horse, and the horse was just shaking its whole body for 5 minutes. They took it on video. I was like, that's after a Bowen? It's sort of unwinded with it. And then after it was like smiling, she said, oh, it was so happy.
That's amazing. So Karen, how do people contact you?
Well, there's a few different ways. I'm always accessible on my website, my Soul Balance, SOUL balance.com. I'm Karen Egoff, EGOFF, that's Fox, so Egoff, I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. Karen Egoff _ My Soul Balance is my Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn, Karen Egoff, again, FF for Fox, and karen.soulbalance@gmail.com.
Okay, we will put those on as captions under this part of the video, and we'll put them in the description so people can get hold of you. And certainly from my personal experience and my horse's experience, I'll endorse everything Karen's been talking about here. So there we go. That's great.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. And thank you, Karen, for joining us. It was an absolute delight having you on our show today.
Thank you, Kathleen and Peter. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. And thank you all again. We love to read your comments, so do please keep them coming. And if anyone out there is interested in being a guest on our show, please don't hesitate to reach out to either Peter or myself. So until next time, take care. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye, everyone.